Is Andrew Berry's job already safe?
We're talking Andrew Berry and job security as we come away from that 2026 NFL draft and 2025 NFL draft, in which Andrew Berry did his thing and did it well. Is it enough to secure his job for many years into the future? We got a voicemail from a fan of the show, which we'll play in a second, but make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and call in and leave us a voicemail yourself because we will play it and talk about it. 216 260 3433.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into this one, Eric. You know me, I'm a pretty big Andrew Berry defender. So this draft
Both of us
class
are.
compare well, I think I'm more so than you. Sometimes you've called for his head. I very rarely have called for his head for anything whatsoever. I want to get into the voicemail though. We had our guy Jeff leave us this voicemail. If you want to leave us a voicemail too, the number is down there. Go ahead, drop it. We will play. Maybe you'll get a whole show where we're reacting to your voicemail just like this one. Let's take a listen.
This is Jeff. I'll try to keep this short. I have two things I want to talk about. I'm not surprised how people are talking about our draft. They were quality picks that filled holes. Regardless of what the original plan was, they were going to go with the story that is exactly how we had it playing out in our minds. But you can't sit here and change my mind that if Tate was there at 6, that they wouldn't have taken him. That's just my opinion on that. With that being said, I'm still happy with the picks and thought Barry did a great job. The other thing I was going to say was, remember a while back when we questioned if Barry should have been fired with Stefanski? We talked about how great of a job he did last year in the draft and was interested in seeing if he could do it again, and it would determine if he'd be next on the chopping block. I think this draft showed Barry is our guy. I know we keep saying these picks look good on paper, but I think most Browns fans are satisfied with how the draft went, whereas in years past, they made us scratch our heads. So I'm interested to see how they play next year, and I'm going to venture to be positive and think that we'll at least have a winning record. I don't know if we're going to be a playoff contender. I think that's going to be based more around the quarterback play. Give me your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Where do you want to dive in, Eric? Do you want to go sequential? I mean, this is a little bit of the conversation we had last week around the documentary The Pick is in terms of Carnell Tate and if they were really high on Fano, like I think and believe that they were. I think that's a good place for us to dive in because we don't have to rehash the whole thing. Do you think if Carnell Tate was there at 6, they would have just taken him?
Based on everything I know now, no. I don't think Carnell Tate was ever really their guy in this draft.
Yeah, why is that? Is it the whole thing with the note and them kind of being okay with him going off the board early so fans weren't upset? Is that why?
I just think that Carnell Tate, he's a talent, don't get me wrong, first of all. Like, I think he's gonna do really well in the NFL. I think that the problem is that the Browns didn't see him as a 6th pick kind of guy. They had pressing needs, don't get me wrong, and I think everybody was shocked where he went. He went so early,
Yeah, it was a
despite being a
shocker.
talent, don't get me wrong. I mean, he is clearly a talent. This was a weird draft, though. I just don't think the Browns thought they would get the return out of him when they could draft guys like Casey Concepcion, like even Tyson. There was a lot of people behind that pick that they could have gotten their hands on for more value, and that's where I just think that Carnell Tate didn't add up for them at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too, especially and I bring up the note that was from the Jory Epstein article that came out where she got to sit there. The little girl that gave Andrew Berry a note that said Carnell Tate no matter what, a la Draft Day the movie, and JW Johnson basically being like, "Oh, that bodes well for us" as soon as he went off the board early. So to me, I don't think the pick was ever going to be Carnell Tate. I really think it came down to Fano and Jordan Tyson in my mind is where it's at, and I
Agreed.
think we ended up getting the guy we wanted number one. I think it was Fano number one because of how they talked about him, because of positional value, because of the insider knowledge of where the Browns were going to draft and whatnot. I think it was Fano one. I think it was Tyson two. And I think it went that way. I think they're super happy because of the assets they picked up on the back end of what was a small trade back with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, they got extreme value out of this draft and they aced it. Let's get more into, is it securing his job? First of all, I love the we're gonna have a winning season, maybe playoffs. It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, Santa's not coming. It's because the Cleveland Browns haven't played football yet, and everything looks rosy. We'll see come September if that's actually the case. I hope it is. I'm calling for them to potentially do well. We will see. Getting to Andrew Berry, though, has it secured his job? I don't think his job has ever really been that much in doubt, especially post surviving Kevin Stefanski. We've talked about it. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, though. You said that I've been more down on on Stefanski. I have been down on Stefanski for years.
You and me
I've been
both,
more
brother.
down
Oh,
on Andrew Barry than you have. Slightly so. I've always liked Andrew Barry, and I've always respect. I think he's immensely intelligent. You don't get into Harvard and become a Harvard grad by being a dummy. But he's made mistakes. First of all, let's just look no further than last year for a second. We assembled arguably the worst offense in the modern NFL. I mean, shit. I would go as far to say that there were better offenses before the forward pass was invented. That's how bad we looked on that side of the ball. So to be a GM whose job is to assemble that team, that's a failure. And as good as the defense is, and as good as those picks have been, and Schwessinger, and we could talk about all of that, that's great. But you put together like 32 out of 32 probably on offense. I don't have stats in front of me, but it was that pitiful. That's a mark, in my opinion. Like that's a mark of somebody not getting the job done. Uh, but there's also the good side.
well, let me put it to you this way. What was the 2025 season all about? In my opinion, it was all about seeing if Kevin Stefanski was the guy. So we went with Kevin Stefanski's guys. We filled the roles. We did what Kevin Stefanski wanted. We added another tight end. We know how much Kevin Stefanski values tight end over wide receiver. We added the quarterback he wanted. Super high, might I add, for the value. We did all of those different things and it didn't work out. Meanwhile, we built the defense. The defense was as mighty as ever. We added key pieces in the positions that we wanted. Quinshawn Judkins. We'll see about Dylan Sampson. I'm still super high on him for being our third
Yeah.
down, our second option back. Obviously, Harold Fannin is a tremendous player. I think he's only going to continue to blossom with the pieces that we've brought to build around this offense and, take a little bit of the eyes off of him. To me, I get and I agree. I'm not trying to defend Andrew Barry by saying this isn't anything to do with Andrew Barry whatsoever. What I'm trying to say is he went with his philosophy for 2025. It gave them the answer on Kevin Stefanski. Now we're moving forward. We have a new offensive line. We have a bunch of new offensive weapons. We're seeing what we have in this quarterback room. And that's the new philosophy. And I think it makes a ton of sense.
I'm shaking my head because if the philosophy is let's give Kevin everything he wants and see if he's a failure, then that's a failure as a GM. For the record, I don't think that's the philosophy, but to waste an entire year and say, okay, let's see if Kevin's the guy by giving him everything he wants, even though it's not going to work. We don't think it's going to work. That's what I'm picking up by what you're saying. Then that's a terrible philosophy. Andrew Barry's job is to assemble the team and tell the coach to go fucking coach the team. Like, pardon my French, but I think Kevin Stefanski was a thorn in our side. Don't get me wrong. And there's a reason he is out of a job in Cleveland. Obviously, he's in Atlanta now. But the job is to assemble the team. The coach's job is to coach the team. Like, yeah, you take input, but you don't listen. Like Kevin Stefanski was not Andrew Barry's boss. So if that's the case, and again, I don't think that was the case, then I still consider it a failure because you wasted an entire year doing that.
Can I raise you? You just said Andrew
Sure.
or Kevin Stefanski was not Andrew Barry's boss, but I will say I think they were on level playing field. But I will say this, and this is an interesting wrinkle. They hired Kevin Stefanski first. Kevin Stefanski was in on the meetings of hiring Andrew Barry. This is the first time it's Andrew Barry and in terms of the top in that type of dynamic. He's obviously very much ahead of Todd Munkin. You can see just by Todd Munkin being happy and giving him the fist bumps in the draft room, which is awesome. I love those clips. Um, but to me, and we've talked about it on the page before, I think the dynamic of the relationship in Cleveland became Jimmy and Barry, and Jimmy implicitly trusting Andrew Barry, and Stefanski kind of not being in as much in those meetings. So what I think could have happened was Jimmy sat Andrew down and said, "This is not going to hurt you, just like the Deshaun Watson thing did not hurt you. build this defense, invest in this defense, do what Kevin wants on offense to the best of your ability. And if he sinks, then we have our answer there and we can move forward. Is that true? Am I putting a tinfoil hat on? Maybe. Who knows? I'm not inside the four walls of Berea, but that could be of what actually went down there and how we've ended up with where we're at now with what has been such a popular offensive focused draft class for the first time.
Maybe you're right. I mean, maybe that's how it went down. We talked about it last year. There was a marked shift where it felt like there were two camps. There was the Barry camp and there was the Stefanski camp. We talked about that rift inside the building. We had sources, friends that we know that work there that had talked about there being a little bit of a rift. Didn't talk about it and they denied it in the media. So maybe you're right there. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't care who was there first. If you're hiring a GM, that GM is always slotted in above a coach. Like, I can't imagine. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they were on equal footing, but that's crazy in and of itself. Don't forget that the GM previously, John Dorsey, he was clearly in charge. Like, there was no question to the fact that it rubbed the ownership the wrong way, because I think he was combative with ownership as well.
Strong arming,
But
yeah.
there was never a question whether or not John Dorsey was in fact in charge, which makes me ask the question: A, did Andrew Barry coming in, was the expectation set by ownership that he wasn't necessarily in charge? Or B, was it his personality? Andrew Barry's a little more soft spoken. Like, he's direct and he'll tell you what needs to be said. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not calling him soft or anything like that, but he's a little more soft spoken. Like, he's a little more, he takes things in and then responds, instead of like, he doesn't walk into a room like John Dorsey, is what I'm trying to say. So is it A? Is it B? Is it a mixture of both? I don't know. We don't know those things. But now it's clear that Andrew Barry's running the show. And I will say that, yeah, these two last draft classes have been impactful in a meaningful way. They haven't, this last one hasn't played football yet, so we don't know how it's going to turn out. But if we go out there and have a winning record, or we go out there and we're serviceable in a way that, like, it's clear that our quarterback isn't our franchise quarterback, but we're right there, then it's
Building
a
the
win.
nest, right?
But we don't know yet. That said, everything that I said, I think is true. Obviously, that's why I said it. But I think the factor that I'm not mentioning is, I think Barry's job is very secure. I think it's been secure for a while. So I don't think there's a question mark hanging over him, unless we were to go like 0-16 again, or 0-17. Like, I don't think there's even a question of his job being secure. And I think it should be. Like, the way he wheels and deals, the way he restructures contracts, like, he works really well in the system that he has. He does a good job, but now these draft picks, they have to pay off. Like, we have to construct a winning team, because we can't be the rebuilding team for year after year after year after year. We talked about our defense has an expiration date. Players like Myles Garrett have an expiration date. Like, we've got to figure this shit out. And if that doesn't happen, are you going to move on and find a better guy than Andrew Barry? I'm not sure you will. I like Barry a lot as a GM, but at a certain point, if we're just not winning, like, they probably will go look for another guy.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about Andrew Barry and his job security. But first, a word from our sponsor.
At the Office is brought to you by Rambler Reserve.
And we're wearing the hats right now.
We are wearing the hats right now, and honestly, this might be one of the best looking things I've put on my head in years.
Rambler Reserve is a Cleveland apparel brand based on history for people who love this city and just can't shut up about it.
So, us?
Us, exactly. Whether it be hats, tees, hoodies, you're going to the game, or you're going to the Muni lot. It's perfect apparel for any Cleveland fan out there.
If your friends say you ramble too much about sports, just own it. Head on over to ramblerreserve.com and use code ATO10 to get 10% off your order.
That's ATO10, ATO like at the office 10, ramblerreserve.com.
We are still wearing those hats. Check them out. Go buy some merch. Use that code ATO10. They are fantastic. I'm going to pick up a few more things myself. But let's continue on talking about Andrew Barry, because he has done a lot of good while he's been here as well. I talked about some of the negative, which of course is going to be the focus when we talk about job security. But there's a lot of positive too.
There is a lot of positive, and I think the positive for the most part outweighs the negative. I mean, you think about some of the hands he was dealt with draft capital, right? Like we've talked about that on the show before. And if you want to blame Andrew Berry for the Deshaun Watson trade, you can. But in my opinion, if Jimmy Haslam's coming out and raising his hand and saying my bad, then so be it. So be it. We have to take it at face value and move on and move forward. I think Andrew Berry, in terms of the trade market, has done a great job. In terms of UDFAs, have done a great job. I mean, there's a plethora of names out there for UDFAs that have panned out for us in various different ways. Ronnie Hickman is obviously the best one. He was our starting safety last year. But Andrew Berry does a good job. Then you add in the draft classes and some of the draft classes that he's had as of late. I mean, I even think about adding Martin Emerson, and before he tore his Achilles, I mean, you were having a conversation about him being number two, and then what do you do with Greg Newsome? Obviously, that unravels itself a little bit with the injury. Martin Emerson moves on to the Texans. There's nothing you could do about that. That's not on Barry that his draft pick got hurt. You know what I mean? It's more so just situational at that point, and it sucks. So to me, Andrew Berry has done a lot of good things. And if this draft class pans out even remotely close to what the 2025 class was like, his job is so secure that he could withstand a bad season. And I'm not talking a bad season like we go 5 and whatever, or 7 and whatever this season. I'm talking like a dip, like Todd Monken goes AWOL. It's a mess. Like I could see him surviving it if this draft class looks good on paper. And another one, say it happens a couple years from now or whatever. I think we do have our guy here. I've always kind of thought laser eyes Andrew Berry. Yes, it's a fun meme. We have great time with it on social media or whatever. But I do truly believe in that Andrew Berry knows what he's talking about and knows what's going on. He's thought of highly in these NFL circles. He's thought of highly around the league. And that's a big part of this as well, is building those relationships with your fellow GMs, doing the right thing, moving in a way that is thought of highly. I just think he's probably the best option out there, aside from, say, getting one of those top, like Howie Roseman's another name, the ego, and he's from that. I almost want to say coaching tree, but GM tree, I guess it would be, with his
Mhm.
connections. His brother just got promoted over there. His twin brother, might I add. They look eerily alike. So to me, I think his job has always been secure. I think this is just the icing on the cake at this point, especially if 3, 4 of these prospects turn out to be starting level players, even in year one.
Yeah, and don't forget you kind of mentioned him in passing, but the Greg Newsome Tyson Campbell trade with the Jaguars midway through the season as well. That
Right.
was another kind of masterclass that was pulled off. I do want to ask you your thoughts. We recently hired former GM Trent, I think it's Trent Baalke. He was
Yeah.
GM of both the Jaguars and the 49ers for several years. We hired him kind of in a consultancy role. What's your take on that hire and what his role will actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, I will never know the exact answer because, again, neither of us are in the four walls of Berea. They're not going to give us that information at any level of media, right? But to me, bringing in a guy like this who's a former GM in the NFL is totally fine. It's good because even if he's been fired or whatever, he can use his shortcomings as help for explaining what's going on here in Cleveland and maybe helping Andrew Berry figure out some tougher situations. We saw in The Pick is In that Andrew Berry is the commander in chief of what's going on with the Browns in terms of football operations. So if you're asking if I'm at all worried that it's like oh, here's his successor just in case something goes on, that's not what I see this as. I see it more as let's bring in a guy with experience for better or for worse, to give his opinion. And Andrew Berry, who is the mastermind, can take that opinion and do with it as he will. Kind of like the D Podesta role, but a little less involved, a little less, hands in the mud, forming the clay, or whatever you want to say. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
Yeah, I never thought that it was a successor for Andrew Berry or anything like that. I think it's a way to add a guy that can spot talent. He has an eye for talent. He can help us in that regard, in a capacity that's just going to make us better, frankly. And he he was GM of teams that did very well for a while with the 49ers, obviously. I think that because the when it was announced, it got a lot of pushback. It got a lot of flack. A
Yeah.
lot of the Cleveland-based organizations here, the headline was Browns hire two-time failed GM. Like the word failed was in there. National media didn't report it that way. So I found that really interesting that they would kind of pile on like, why are they hiring this guy? in a consultancy role, I think it's great. Like the more the better, in my opinion. This guy has experience and can give us insight, I'm sure, into other teams and the processes of other teams that we didn't have before. So I like the hire. I mean, time will tell. I'm sure he wants to become a GM again somewhere. So I'm not sure he'll
Right.
be here that long, but I love it.
It's like Mike Vrabel, and I laugh because of the situation going on with Mike Vrabel, but that's what we did. We brought him here. He was basically a consultant, a coach. He wasn't here all the time, but he was helping out with the organization. And then he used that to leapfrog back into a head coaching role with the Patriots, right? Like that's just how these NFL circles work. So to think negatively because he's failed as a GM elsewhere before and to use that as a headline to me is more clickbaity than anything else because anybody could potentially be a good consultant. It's a completely different situation to be the mastermind, but to come in here and give his 2 cents, I think he's 100% worth whatever that paycheck is, however many zeros Jimmy Haslam put on that one.
Definitely. Since you brought him up, Mike Vrabel, a couple questions.
Oh
Number
God.
one, if we had hired him as Cleveland's coach, do you think we would have fired him by now?
Potentially, who knows? I don't know. Potentially, though, it's crazy to think that the Cleveland Browns have dodged a bullet like this one because it's would be such a Cleveland Brown situation happen. But yeah, potentially, I think he would have been fired.
I mean, I don't know about dodging a bullet. The man, it's not like he broke any laws. I mean, we signed Deshaun Watson for crying out loud. Like,
Oh,
as
right,
long as
but that's
he's
what I'm
winning
saying. That
football
fits our
games.
organization to a T, Eric, and we don't have to deal with it. We're just with Todd Munkin. He swears a lot right now.
Fair enough. Second question, final question, and we'll move on and get out of here. When it comes to Mike Vrabel, did Tennessee know about any of this, and was that why he was fired? And I only ask that because if you recall, first of all, him being fired was a shock. He was one of the best coaches in the NFL. His stint with the Browns, it was very clear that he was going to be a head coach again. Like there was never a doubt in anybody's mind, and yet Tennessee parted ways with him. Do you think it played a factor at all?
No, because the same thing happened here with Kevin Stefanski, right? Like sometimes a team or an organization just sees that the time is up, the writing's on the wall. Andrew Barry got a job, or Andrew Barry, Jesus, we've been propping up Andrew Barry so much. Kevin Stefanski got a job in Atlanta right away, right? So to me, I don't
True.
think that really had anything to do with it. If it did, that would be another wild wrinkle to add to the whole story with Mike Vrabel right now. But no, I don't think so.
Final question. I promise we're done with this. Is one of her kids Mike Vrabel's?
That's crazy going into defamation, and no, I'm
It's
not.
not
No, no,
defamation. Defamation,
no.
you have to be trying to harm somebody. I think there's a good chance. And on that note, the debate never ends, but the show does for now. We'll see you next time.